Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great day. Today is going to be a speed reviews video. I'm going to talk about a bunch of the things I have been trying lately. And as always, I welcome everyone else's reviews down in the comments as well. Let's start with bronzer. I have a couple different ones to mention. Actually, I think 3 different bronzers to talk about. Let's talk about this one from RMS. I knew I would love this. This is one of those products where I'm going in, I had a very positive attitude about it. I really like it. So I picked up the lightest shade. This is the shade Beachwalk Betty, which is meant for fair to light skin. So it has more of that pink undertone or tone to it, whatever you want to say. I have it on this side of my face and I actually applied it, I felt like fairly heavily, more than I would. I was trying to help you see the color. It doesn't look like I'm wearing bronzer, does it? And yet it definitely, you could tell when I was applying it, bronzer was being laid down. There's just no harsh lines. Everything looks very thin and skin-like. The product itself does have a little bit of glow to it, but it's not gonna leave your skin sparkly. RMS has just been such a winner brand for me this year. These, I don't know if they're technically baked. There's something different than just plain pressed, but whatever the process is for making this, it makes a beautiful skin-like product, and this shade is just wonderful. This bronzer's been getting some hype. I would agree with the hype. I think it's really nice. Now let's talk about the bronzer that's on this side of my face. So I have yet to review the new Hourglass palette that came out. I got mine a little later than everybody else. I was saving up my money a little bit. So I did choose the Lotus pattern, but the shades on the inside are from the lightest palette. So I think that if you had just purchased them like at Sephora, the lightest palette would have been the Dragon palette. So this is the Dragon interior with the Lotus packaging. So this is what the palette looks like. I like this one even more than the one that was released last year, and I have been using that one almost every day for the powders in it. This one I like even more. So the powders, the whole reason I purchased it has a lighter powder and a more, for my skin tone, my tone face powder that I would use all over my face. I've been using those every day. I use the lighter one under my eye, this one all over my face, and it does the same thing as the other powders do, and it creates a very kind of airbrushed finished look, and I just love the effect that those have. But the reason why I think that this one is even better than the one last year is because the bronzer is not so warm. The bronzer was my least favorite part of the palette last year. It just pulls kind of warm on me. I can figure it out, but you know, it's just kind of eh. This is so much better. And again, I applied it heavier than I normally would. So hopefully you can see the tone. Let me swatch it next to the one from RMS. So they're, you know, this one's a little bit more pink, but this is still not nearly in like the super warm orange area either. They're both very nice bronzers. And then as for the rest of the palette, I have been really enjoying it. I do like the shades of the blushes even more than last year, as I'm actually wearing this blush on both cheeks today. That is the shade Peach Fusion, and I've worn this more mauve-y one as well, and I just love them. The Hourglass powders are really top tier. They really are. I think probably my least favorite part of the palette this year is actually the highlighter. I am wearing it today. I wanted you to see it. It's obviously still a pretty highlighter. It's just a little bit more golden than I was expecting, but even with my pale skin, I can still pull it off. It doesn't leave any shadows. I just like the pink one that was in last year's lightest palette better. But all in all, I'm incredibly pleased. This is an everyday palette for me, and I'm just so glad that they dialed in the bronzer. That was my main complaint from last year, and oh boy, they finally did it. Let's talk about another very expensive face palette. This is, I think it was $88, or was it $90? This is very similar in price to the one from Hourglass, but that has 6 products in it. This only has 4. This is a cream face palette. It comes with bronzer, blush, highlighter, and the balm. This balm is meant to make any of these into a dewy product if you wish. And they even encourage using it under foundation to create kind of a lit from within glow. I've only tried that one time and it was gorgeous. I used it underneath the Merit Stick Foundation and it did really give them a beautiful luminous glow. I need to try it with more foundations, however. I feel like that beautiful luminous glow you can get with a lot of different products. So, and I'm not really a connoisseur of that either. So even though I thought it was really pretty, I'm not sure if I would say to go buy this just for that reason. I mean, this is very expensive and there's lots of products that do the same lit from within type deal, you know? I think my favorite part of this palette is actually this highlighter. So I have the Daybreak. So this palette came out in 3 different shades. I have the lightest shade called Daybreak, And the highlighter is called Ghost Flower. It's actually pretty light. Like that, it is just a very, very light highlighter, but it's satin in the most beautiful skin smoothing way. Like lately I've been discovering some skin smoothing highlighters. The one from Fenty comes to mind, the diffusing one. I just love that one. And this kind of does the same thing where it blurs a little bit. It's very, very flattering. It's gorgeous. And I think that it is the nicest product in the whole palette. I just love that. The bronzer also not a slouch. Let me swatch it next to these other bronzers. So I watched the launch video. She said that she does not like cool toned bronzers. She wanted something that was truly neutral. And looking at it in comparison to all of these, I would say it probably has, I don't know, maybe about the same amount of warmth as this one from Hourglass, maybe a little bit more warmth, but it really works for me. It's beautiful. She did a really good job choosing a neutral bronzer. And I love the formula. I'm very much into like the Makeup by Mario skin enhancer type product where it's very, very thin. You can't really see it, and I can get the same effect with this one with very little effort. The blush is of course beautiful as well. I think that you can tell that she spent so much time creating the formulas for this. But even though I like the blush, I think that these other products definitely are shining for me anyway in the palette. But I can quick swatch the blush for you. The blush shade is called Thistle Bloom. And if you want to know how this looks on my skin, I did do a whole try-on review video. So isn't that a nice, beautiful blush shade? I did a whole video where I tried on one side of my face this the way it is, and then on the other side of my face I added the Dew Balm to make it dewy. This is my kind of product. Yes, it was very expensive, but I had been saving up money for this time of year to buy some things for myself. So I was able to grab it when it came out. Since it's a cream palette, I don't think it's everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone's gonna be as excited about it as I am, but I think it's beautiful, very, very flattering. And I can't wait till she releases these in singles because I want the highlighter from the medium palette. With expensive as this was, if this was disappointing, I would certainly tell you, but I'm so happy that I love it. Let's talk about the mascara that I'm wearing. So this is the L'Oreal Voluminous Superstar. I, for some reason, had never heard of this. I saw someone else using it in a video and I was like, I need to try that out. So this is one of those mascaras that has a primer on one side and then the mascara on the other. And with this one, they do want you to work quickly so that the primer is not completely dry before you add on the mascara. So this is what the wand looks like for the mascara. I think it creates beautiful lashes. The only thing I don't like about it is that this one smudges on me, which the L'Oreal Voluminous Mascara does as well, the original one. So I guess it makes sense that this one would also smudge on me. I was hopeful that it would not, but anyway, that's why I did not put it on my bottom lashes today. But I love the effect. This is one of the mascaras that I would call an everything mascara. It's not necessarily lengthening, not necessarily volumizing. It just does something in all the different areas and it creates just a beautiful lash. If the original L'Oreal Voluminous Mascara wears well for you, I would recommend checking this out. I think it creates beautiful, beautiful, dramatic lashes. Okay, I'm just gonna take off my lip gloss because I want to show you this lipstick. This is a sample of one of the Prada lipsticks. So this is the shade Quartz in the Hyper Matte lipstick formula from Prada. So I was at a counter. I actually didn't purchase anything from Prada, but the Prada lady was the one who was ringing me up. So she gave me some samples, including this lipstick. So I have to show you this because I actually think it's very pretty. First of all, it does have a scent. Kind of a powdery scent. It's not my favorite scent, but the actual shade I thought was very pretty. So I think Quartz is the name. Otherwise, it says B02 on it. But aside from the shade being quite pretty, I was actually really impressed with the formula. This is very long wearing and it does not make your lips dry and uncomfortable, crinkly like you would normally expect a matte, long wearing product to be. I think this is one of the very few matte products I've tried, or matte lip products I should say I've tried, that didn't make me want to instantly put a lip balm on top. It's very comfortable, and if you are okay with a powdery scented lipstick and you're after kind of a long wearing matte, a comfort matte, this might be an option. Yeah, quite powdery, but an impressive formula, I think. The inside of the cap is green. I thought that was really pretty. Okay, let's talk about a few different highlighters. So this one from Physicians Formula, a friend of mine picked up for herself and she could not get it to show up on her. She has more tan skin than me and this was just not doing it for her. So this is the Luminous Gleam in the Mineral Wear Diamond Dust formula. So I can't tell if this is supposed to be a cream or if it's just a really creamy powder. Like I'm not sure what it's supposed to be, but it's very, very sparkly, kind of like the Fenty cream sparkle highlighter. It does have a problem kind of showing up, doesn't it? It's weirdly very sparkly and also hard to see. So I'm trying to see if it'll focus on the back of my hand there. There you can see the sparkles, right? So it's gold and pink, but not too much. I could see this being for somebody who is after the kind of sparkle effect but doesn't want too much. But I think it needs to go either one way or another. It needs to either not be sparkly or lean more into the sparkles so that you could actually see them. The sparkles are pretty if you like apply it heavily enough. Not necessarily something that I think I will use, however, so I might pass this on to a friend. Thank you so much to my friend, though, who offered it to me to try. Okay, these next two highlighters, the reason why I was at the counter, actually, purchasing something. So I don't often get a chance to shop at makeup counters. There are none near me, but we were driving through a town that had a Nordstrom's, and I asked my husband, like, will you buy me a present? So I bought this, or he bought it for me, from Chanel. This is the Baume Essentiel Multi-Use Stick, which is their cream highlighter. And I picked up the shade Sculpting, which is kind of the classic shade. So right away, I was kind of impressed with it. It has kind of nicer, heavier packaging. It's not super heavy, but in comparison to like a drugstore packaging, you can tell it's nice and weighted. You know, I was trying to compare this to like Merit, which I had for a long time. I don't have my Merit highlighter at the moment to compare it to, so I think I'm gonna abstain from comparing it to Merit for the most part. I do think that Merit is just a little more oily perhaps, but I know I'm already wearing highlighter. This is gonna make me just look crazy, but I wanna show you the effect that this can give on the skin. It's very, very dewy and wet looking, but it actually wears much longer than you would expect. Something like this, I just expected it to wear off right away, and hours later, I looked in the mirror and it was still there. Do you need to get the Chanel one to get this effect? No, because there's a lot of products like this out there. In fact, I'm gonna talk about one right now. This is a new release from L'Oreal, and I had to grab this because I wanted to compare it to the Chanel one and the Merit one. So this is the L'Oreal Lumi Le Glace highlighter stick, and they actually released this in a ton of different shades, and some formulas are more glittery than the other ones. I picked up the shade 610 Glassy Pearl Eclat. So right away, it reminds me of the Merit in appearance, but in the way that it kind of feels, it reminds me more of the Chanel, I guess. Not as oily as the Merit. I'm gonna put this one on this side, and you can see it's a very, 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 very similar effect to the one from Chanel, the one from Merit, any other stick highlighters out there. Honestly, they're very similar to each other. I would say the only main difference is I do feel like the Chanel is just that much more wet looking, whereas the one from L'Oreal, even though I wouldn't call it sparkly, it just has a little tiny bit of sparkle in it. And if you're trying to like pair them apart and figure this out, I feel like you can very, very slightly see some sparkles if you were like looking very, very closely at your pores. On the L'Oreal side, you could see that, you know, little sparkles. Do I like both of them? Yes. This one has much nicer packaging. This one feels very, very cheap and chintzy. But if you want the effect of some of these very nice, expensive stick highlighters, try the one from L'Oreal. Again, I don't want to tell you they're exactly the same, because they are not. But I think that most people looking at you would never know the difference. Okay, I have one skincare product to mention. So Banish sent me a package, and this was the moisturizer in there. So this is the Vitamin C Cream Brightening Daily Moisturizer. It has alpha, arbutin, licorice, and vitamin C. I wanted to try this, but I get so scared with products like this because my lips are, not my lips, because I just have sensitive skin. Things like this do tend to bother me. And while it's true that lately I've been experiencing more breakouts, I mean, I know you can't really tell on camera, but especially around my mouth, I've been having a lot of problems lately. I don't think it's this moisturizer. I think it's the fact that I've been eating a lot of sugar. I think that's the problem. But one thing I have noticed with this moisturizer is that my skin does appear brighter, more brightened, and it doesn't seem to be irritating my skin the way that some heavy moisturizers can do sometimes. This is how it looks. It looks like a regular white, nice moisturizer. It's nice and thick, it has good body to it, but it's not super fragranced and it sinks right into my skin. So this has surprised me. I thought it would be kind of a hard pass, but it's actually very nice. Its first ingredient is aloe vera. Second ingredient, rose essence water. That would explain the very, very slight rosy scent, but it's not too overpowering. So anyway, I've been enjoying it. Has anybody tried anything else from this brand? I'd be interested to hear your reviews. All right, that is everything I have to talk about today. Thank you so much for following along. Usually by the end of the video, I'm talking about my tea of the day. Today, however, I was so incredibly thirsty, I decided I would just have a bubbly. This is the lime one. Actually, my favorite sparkling water is from Waterloo, but you know, it hit the spot. My main thing when choosing a sparkling water is I cannot do fake sugar. Sucralose, even stevia, it does something. It gives me a headache. It gives a horrible tight taste in my mouth. I cannot do it. So it needs to just be no sweetener whatsoever, and that's what I prefer. If you have a recommendation for a sugar-free, sucralose-free, aspartame-free, anything-free sparkling water, please let me know. I would love to try something new. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you again very soon in the next one. Bye.